Hey guys, it's Pessy. Welcome back to my channel, whether you're listening on Spotify or watching the YouTube video. Hi, I'm glad to have you here. I'm Pessy. I'm a certified personal trainer, nutrition coach, and I do health coaching specific for women who are busy, dealing with a chaotic schedule, trying to live a fulfilling and balanced life. So, let's talk about the struggles of being a career woman, having a chaotic, busy schedule, and still trying to have that balance of taking care of yourself and your well being, implementing all those healthy habits that you know you need to be doing while still trying to juggle everything you have to do outside of that, like your work, your social life, and just staying on top of everything is sometimes very, very hard. And I wanted to talk about this because I've dealt with this firsthand. Um, I know a lot of like creators and people like show the lifestyle of living like that it girl life where you're waking up and you have a morning routine and you go to the gym and then you go to work and you like make food and everything, and then sometimes it looks so easy, like people make it look so effortless online, and then once you try to actually implement it into your life, it's just it's a lot harder to actually do rather than watching other people do it on their social medias. I think that's something that's like very prominent recently, is like that wellness lifestyle content that like is inspiring and I love, and obviously I make that myself sometimes too. But as someone with a busy schedule, it kind of seems impossible sometimes to have that type of lifestyle when you're also juggling a busy, chaotic schedule. So I wanted to talk and get into a little bit about, how you can make living that balanced wellness lifestyle possible with that busy work schedule that you have, and balance it all in a way that fits for you. I'll just first start talking about my own journey when it comes to this. I grew up loving movement, right? I was a dancer, I was a gymnast. I would go on runs and bike rides and hikes and rollerblade, skateboard, do it all. Still do it all, but like I was really into movement growing up, and that just translated into like taking care of myself. As I transitioned out of dance and gymnastics, I just kind of stuck with working out and movement, and I that was at the core of what I loved from those hobbies, was the fact that I was moving my body and taking care of myself, and it just felt so good. And then as I grew up, I just fell in love with wellness, taking care of myself, and self-development. I just really got interested more and more over time with how to correctly nourish my body. And once I started wanting to implement a regular exercise routine and a regular balanced diet, I found it very difficult, like especially when I was, you know, in school and working, trying to figure out how I'm supposed to work out, how I'm supposed to eat. So it was already difficult to try and figure out where to go, where to start with my wellness journey, like what I was supposed to be doing. And then along with that, trying to find the time with work and school to balance it all. It was very difficult. And I think it took me a lot of time to educate myself and properly learn how to do this all for myself and what that would look like. So for me personally, my journey started in that time when I was really getting very dedicated to educating myself in on the wellness field, and also trying to figure out how to all balance it together with my busy schedule that I was already in. And the way I started to figure it out was, I started to read a bunch of books on wellness, and I started to listen to so many podcasts on how people balance it all, and different educational stuff on how to actually exercise, how to eat well. And then I just kept getting more and more into it. And then over time, I decided that I really, really, this is something I'm really passionate about. And I decided to get my personal training certification to get more into the science behind exercise, and then my nutrition certification to get more into the science behind nutrition and eating well. And I just grew a passion for wanting to bring the passion that I had for wellness to other people. And over time, I felt more and more solid with my education behind the science of it all. But there was still the big part of, now, how do I fit this into my lifestyle? How do I balance all these hobbies that I love along with yoga and walks and journaling and meditation and doing it all? Like, I am and was obsessed with every part of, the wellness journey. And that was the difficult part for me. Like, it took a lot of time and energy to learn and educate myself on the science and the logistics behind this stuff. But I think the hardest part definitely is figuring out how to fit it into your life, how it works into a busy schedule, because that's not something that is taught as much. Like, you could see videos on, exercises to do for whatever it is, but I don't think it's as talked about as how you balance every one of these habits together with your busy work schedule. And I think that's something that's more needed, obviously, because it's so hard to see all these different wellness habits that people always recommend and that people say it's good for you to do and that you should be implementing into your life, but not knowing how that would actually fit into your life? So I just over time, with trial and error, was just figuring out what changes do you have to make to your habits and to your actual lifestyle in order to fit these wellness habits into your life, into my life. I think very fast I learned that it's very easy to overestimate the amount of habits that you could fit into your schedule, and it's very easy to overestimate and get overwhelmed with everything that's in your schedule. And I think the number one thing I learned first, very fast and, very hard, was the importance of scheduling. First of all, planning out your entire schedule, whether that's weekly, daily, monthly. I really, really never used to, like, the only schedule I used to have was if I was writing a to do list, right? Like, in the morning, sometimes I would just write a to-do list. And that worked well for, like, trying to check off everything on the checklist. But in reality, it just didn't work well with trying to analyze and figure out what parts of my week were going to be dedicated to which habits, and how I was going to allocate my time correctly so that throughout my week I'm getting in all the habits that I want to get in, while keeping in mind all the already scheduled stuff I have for work and everything. And I think the number one thing I found was to plan and schedule a week in advance. Choose a day when you sit down and you write everything down that you have to do, and then you have a whole list in your mind or written out of habits that you want to implement, and then you find times in your schedule that you would put it into, and write it all out so that every single day you already have a pre-planned schedule. And you can also have a daily schedule where you can add more detailed, like, times, and if anything else comes up, you can get more detailed into that to-do list. So I think it's so, so, so important to get very into planning and scheduling. And I think what goes along with that is you have to be realistic with your time. And this means, like, you can't just schedule your day with like 15 different things after work, because guess what? You have to be realistic with your energy levels when you get back from work. Sometimes you need that time to unwind, or you can't overschedule because that's going to lead to burnout, right? I think we all know that. Like, sometimes we expect too much of ourselves, and we have to be realistic with what exactly we can actually get done and what exactly would actually help, because part of our wellness journey is not bringing yourself to burnout, because there's such a thing as overtraining and getting too restrictive and getting too rigid and packing your schedule to a point where you're literally just nonstop. And that's like kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do, because a big part of our wellness journey is like that meditation, that stillness of finding the, the quietness within us, because we are busy people. And when you're a busy person, it's so important to make sure you're taking that time to be still within yourself, because if you're constantly on the go, you're going to get lost in the situations around you, and you're not going to be present, you're not going to be able to enjoy your current life. So that's literally the most important thing to remember when you're scheduling out your week, is that you need to underschedule, right? You need to put all the habits that you want into your week in a way that is under scheduling and being realistic. And when I say, if you're new to working out, or if you're new to nutrition or meditation, or if you're new to anything when it comes to wellness, I think the number one thing is to start small, because when we're trying to create new habits, it's like you're reprogramming and rewiring yourself, and it takes step time and little steps to get to a place where things come naturally, right? Because you're programmed to have these certain habits right now, and in order to have new habits, you have to reprogram yourself. Reprogramming yourself takes a lot of time and consistency, and you are not going to be able to consistently and sustainably keep repeating a new habit unless it feels like something that's doable for you. Because if you, let's say, all of a sudden you go from never working out to wanting to work out 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, guess what? You're very quickly going to get to a point where you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is too much. Give up and go back to square one of zero working out, because it's just going to get too much for you. And that's why a lot of people, when they like unsustainably like lose weight, or unsustainably make these drastic lifestyle changes, bounce back to their old lifestyle, because you're not taking small steps and you're not building habits over time, right? So, a really big important thing to remember when you are figuring out which habits you want to implement is to start small. Start small. And this can mean, if you are just starting to work out maybe 2 or 3 days a week, instead of 2 hours or 1 hour, you can do 15 to 20 minutes, as simple as that. And if you are new to like cooking for yourself, instead of expecting yourself to cook your all three meals every day, which is going to be unsustainable for you if you're not used to that, it's figuring out what works for you. A good thing to do when you're starting to eat well is to prep food, right? It's to one day out of the week, maybe the same day that you're planning your week in advance, is to figure out what you're going to eat for the week, and then make a grocery list and prep as much as you can on that day, right? You can prep full meals, you can just pre-cut ingredients, have it ready to go. Whatever it is, making it easier for yourself on that day of what you're going to eat. It's setting yourself up for success for that day, because then when that day comes, you don't have these expectations for yourself to cook three new meals on the spot in the day, especially when you're crunched on time as a busy person. You have the food in the fridge ready to go, or ready to just throw together, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, instead of sitting there for a half hour to an hour, right? And then it's more realistic to your time. First of all, it's easier to keep up with. It's a smaller change in your schedule, because if you're used to constantly like skipping meals or getting fast food, something that's not that far off is, instead of skipping, it takes a little less time to just whip something out of your fridge, throw it in the microwave or on the stove top, and heat it up and eat it, right? Because that's kind of like fast food, but except healthy and homemade. So it's important to remember that prepping and planning your meals is a great way to walk into having those healthier food choices throughout your week. And if you're wanting to get into meditation, find your stillness more, I would always recommend to start with like 3 minutes of breath work. And if, you know, daily seems too much for you, we got to get to know ourselves. We got to get into that self exploration and figure out what would work for us when it comes to all these little habits. And when you get to know yourself better, then you get to just be more honest with what's realistic for you, and that's so important. Um so I would say, like, you have to have this conversation with yourself and ask yourself, what doesn't seem overwhelming to me, right? And if that's 3 minutes of breathing when you wake up or when you go to sleep in a meditation form, or going on a walk and looking around you and breathing, and that's your meditation form, or listening to a guided meditation 2 times a week, 1 time a week. It depends where you're at, and um it depends what doesn't feel overwhelming for you. So it's just like thinking very deeply into what feels doable and achievable for you right now, what you think you can add into your schedule without it being like drastic change, without it being like s- taking so much effort from you in the moment and so much discipline, and adding that in. And you can go from meditating twice a week for 3 minutes to the next, whenever you're feeling ready to move up, you can go to 4 days a week for 10 minutes. It's like you get to reevaluate yourself over time and see the progress that you're making, where what steps you're ready to move up from or go back from. If there was something that you added to your schedule that is too much for you, you can take a step back from it. But it's all about evaluating yourself and being honest and realistic with where you're at, and it's showing up for yourself where you're at instead of putting these high expectations on yourself that are unrealistic. Because we'd rather take small steps and have little wins than take these huge steps and just get disappointed, right? So it's all about meeting yourself where you're at, leading with love rather than fear or judgment or anything like unrealistic. It's being so honest with yourself and so understanding of where you're at and reevaluating and adjusting based on how you do with your new schedule. And it's also just about believing in yourself, believing you can make these changes, being confident in who you are. That takes work too. And that definitely takes time and effort. It takes continuous self trust building to believe in the fact that you can make changes in your life. You're not going to be able to create these changes unless you really, really know that it's possible for you. And it is possible for you, just like it's possible for everybody else, okay? You can do it just like everybody else can do it. It's just with coming with the right approach and being compassionate, being open to trying different techniques and taking that action in the moment. That brings me to talk about something that I created that I'm really excited about launching, because I think this is going to be such a valuable resource for people like you and me. It's something that I wish I had basically when I was first entering into creating these wellness habits into my busy life. This is something that I just wish I could have had, and I think could be a valuable resource for you if you're starting your journey, or if you're just having trouble figuring out what steps to take and where to go and what exactly you should be doing. I created this resource called the Busy Girl Wellness Guide. This guide is completely free. It's basically just your guide to understanding and implementing the most important wellness habits into your busy life and chaotic schedule in ways that are sustainable and will jumpstart you on your journey to creating that balanced and fulfilling lifestyle. You don't have to go through all the learning and education that I went through in order to do this trial and error situation. It's exhausting to juggle the meetings, the deadlines, the expectations you have from work with those wellness habits that you want to implement, and also not knowing where to start with all those habits. But it's so important to take that action and take those steps, because we want to take care of ourselves. We want to give our body the nourishment and the attention it deserves, and we want to live life in the healthiest way possible. And that's why I'm so excited for you to have this guide, because it's just going to make it so much easier for you to understand and implement these habits. And in this guide is going to be a 3-day at home or in gym workout plan that has also tips on how to schedule your workouts, as well as 4 easy dinner ideas that you can pre-prep and instructions on how meal prepping can look for you, and learning to reprogram your self dialogue through a pool of positive self talk phrases that you can use in the moments that you need it. And of course, just learning to embrace your inner peace and slowing down, because that's like literally the number one thing, is to obtain this level of stillness throughout all this chaos, so that you can just breathe through your day without feeling like you're just moving from one task to another. In the guide, it explains different meditation styles that you can be doing, that you can start today. And these are all, like I said, just small steps you can take to really, start giving yourself the care you deserve, start taking care of your body, mind, and soul well being, and implementing it into your busy life as a hardworking woman that deserves to have this level of self care and self love in your life. The Busy Girl Wellness Guide is completely free. It's just a downloadable link that will be sent to your email that you can have with everything broken down. And if you download this guide before December 29th, it'll come with a printable weekly planner to effortlessly organize your goals, meal plans, workouts, habits, all in one place that'll work perfectly with the guide. That printable weekly planner will only be available until December 29th. So if you are wanting to get that with your guide, make sure you download the guide before December 29th, and you will receive the guide and you will receive the weekly planner to go with it, so that you can start planning and scheduling out your week. I'm so ready for more women like us to be living fulfilled, well balanced life. You deserve to live the life of your dreams, and I want to be here to help you through it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, email me, or DM me on Instagram. And I'm always, always, always happy to have a conversation to help you out. But like I said, you can download this resource by clicking the link in the description. I'm just so excited to see all of us busy girls thriving. Keep taking deep breaths throughout your day. You can make these changes. I believe in you. You believe in you. Let's do this together.